Hi, I'm John from What Mountain Bike.
And I'm Tom from What Mountain Bike.
And we'd like to talk to you today about plus-sized bikes. It's the latest and greatest thing. So essentially, what are these plus sizes, Tom?
So a plus-size bike is one which comes with oversized tyres. Normally you'd expect to see a tyre sort of from a 2.2 to maybe 2.35, 2.4 inch. And a plus-size bike tends to be 2.8 to 3 inch. And they tend to be mounted on rims with an internal width of between 30 and 50 millimetres.
There are a lot of reasons behind why people are doing this, and of course, yes, because they'd like to sell you another bike. That's probably a big part. But what are the main benefits that manufacturers are sort of mooting for this new wheel size?
There's a range of sort of so-called benefits, and obviously there's going to be a range of compromises as well, as with any sort of system on a bike. So I guess one of the main things that the bike companies are saying is that the plus-size tyres, you can run them at a lower pressure, typically somewhere between 12 and 17, 18 psi. And what this gives is masses of grip, really. You get a lot of grip on loose, rough terrain. The other sort of benefit is that rollover effect. So much like when we saw the introduction of 29ers and people saying that they rolled over roots and ripples a lot easier, these plus-size wheels do that, but to another level almost.
So we should point out that there's not just one plus size, there's a number of plus sizes. So you can get basically a 650B sized wheel, which people are variously calling 650 plus, 27 plus or 6Fattie. And then also, like the bike behind us, you can also get a 29 plus. So that's like really quite big. But the benefit, or the thing that people are really pushing with the mid-sized fat wheel, is you can actually fit it into a 29er frame with very little issue. The external diameter is pretty much the same.
It should make a pretty quick swap between two different feeling bikes. So if you already have like a 29er reasonably lightweight trail bike, bang in some 6Fattie tyres or some plus size wheels, and you've got a bike which will handle pretty differently in a lot of ways. The external diameter of a 650 plus wheel and a 29er is only about 7 mil smaller on the 6 plus. So it rolls pretty similarly and doesn't affect the geometry too much on a 29er frame, but gives you a whole different feeling bike over that rough and loose terrain.
You've actually ridden a couple of these now. I've not. But even so, I have some thoughts. One is, you're now putting a very large tyre on there. Tyres are heavy. So what's the sort of weight difference between the two things? Aren't we going to be increasing the weight of the bike a lot?
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the compromises you get with any sort of plus size wheel. So Specialized say with their 6Fattie ones, if we're looking at just 650 plus, their tyres are running around 900 grams for a single ply, pretty sort of low profile tyre. They say they can get away with that because the size of the tyre means that there's less issues with pinch punctures, and the extra grip you get from the size and the low pressure means you don't need such an aggressive tread. But there's no doubt that, especially when you're looking at, say, 29 plus, the external weight of the wheel is increased, and that does have an effect on sort of how snappy a bike feels.
Is this really a viable thing to be doing for, like, if you want to ride really hard, why do you want to put on a heavy, thin, weak tyre just because you get more grip? And again, because you're getting more grip, you're inevitably getting more drag. For me, I don't really understand what this new standard is offering. I've yet to ride one. It's just, from the outside view, it seems like it's a bit of a spin trick.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely going to be elements of people sort of jumping onto a bandwagon. When I've ridden this Trek, it's a Stash 9, and I've been slowly reducing my tyre pressures. I was initially worried about getting pinch punches, especially at the back, because it's a hardtail frame. And so far, I've not managed to pinch it. I've got it to the point where it actually feels like there is too much tyre roll down, and it's riding more like a fat bike than a trail bike, so I've put the tyre pressures back up. And yet, I've still not managed to sort of cause any particular damage to the bike. I think there's a risk of assuming that because it's a plus size, it's like a fat bike. And in my experience, they're much closer to a trail bike than a fat bike. You're talking half an inch difference on the tyre, potentially.
The other thing with a lot of the plus sizes seems to be that different brands have different ideas about what it should be doing. So Specialized are very, very firm that this is going to be something that you'll see on your trail bike, and basically that all trail bikes should have it. I actually chatted to them and they just said as much. We think this is the future of trail bikes. Other people are saying that, oh yeah, it's really good for hardtail, so like with the Stash behind us. And Trek's line on it is that when it comes to a hardtail, they reckon that people should be thinking about either their Fuel, which is their short travel full suspension bike, or one of these. Because again, they reckon that having this big fat tyre helps hardtail ride almost as well as a full suspension bike.
That does come back to the fact that tyre pressures in these bikes is so critical. With a normal bike, you might be able to get away with a tyre pressure window of, say, 7 or 8 psi quite happily and not really notice that much difference between the two pressures. But with a plus size one, my experience is that that window is down to 2 or 3 psi. If it's too low, then you get a lot of tyre squirm, a lot of tyre roll. If you get it too high, then yeah, there's a tyre ping, it rolls really fast, but you're not really getting any benefit. You're not getting that extra grip, which is, from what a lot of people say, the whole point of these 27 or 29 plus wheels. So you have to be so on it with your tyre pressure, and it needs a lot of experimentation.
So we're basically substituting setting up your suspension properly for messing about with tyres.
Yeah, and some may argue that that's, it's a bit more of a faff to do it with the tyres because you need decent gauges, and some might argue that playing with a forks pressure or forks sort of settings is a bit more complicated for a, say, more sort of inexperienced rider.
Yeah, but that brings us back to the question again is, would you have one of these over a full suspension trail bike? That's £2,800. That's quite a good full suspension bike. If you wanted to go out there and buy one.
If it was my own money and I could only have one bike, I'd have a full suspension trail bike. If I was allowed 2 bikes, I'd have a full suspension trail bike, and I'd probably get the stash. The bike, like the one behind me, is probably one of the most fun hardtails I've ridden in the last year. There's acres of grip. The geometry on, say, the Trek especially, is fantastic. And it's just a bike that I'm happy to ride over and over again.
So we're not even sure which of these standards is actually going to become a standard. So whether 29 Plus is going to stick around, whether 650 Plus is going to stick around. And again, we aren't even sure about what people are going to set their minds on to doing, whether they're going to say, oh, it's a hardtail that can replace a full suspension bike, or whether they just go, we're going to put it on full suspension bikes and it's going to be the standard. That's something that's still up in the air, isn't it? And of course, sort of the technology will develop in the meantime, so we'll hopefully see a greater range of tyres and a great range of bikes. So it's going to be interesting times, but much as people said around 26, don't throw away your old stuff yet, and there's still probably plenty of life in it. Bye.